work with say, I'm doing everything I should be doing. I just want to hit more revenue, or I want my team to hit more revenue. And the first thing we do in tactics is do a calendar audit and look for how they're spending their time versus how they say they're spending their time. And inevitably, I can always pull at least 5 hours a week and say, I can get you 5 more hours. How do you want to spend that? Is it the copy and paste in PowerPoint? Do you want to spend it, coaching salespeople? Do you want to build better relationships with your customers? And so we start there so that people can understand how they're going to repurpose that time. And then once you've done that, that's the magic of AI, where you can say, how am I actually going to add the tools to make sure that those hours get protected?
AI isn't the future, it's now. And whether you're in HR, sales, operations, or leadership, the choices you make today will determine whether you thrive or get left behind.
Welcome to the AI Voice of a Victim podcast. We are here live at the AI-Powered Women Conference at MIT, and today's guest is none other than leadership catalyst and author of Corporate Rehab, Jennie Blumenthal. Jennie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. So excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited because we're talking about evolving your leadership in the world of AI. And what I love about this is you and I have known each other for a long time. So I know the Jennie from 5 years ago, okay? If you were to pull out that leadership playbook, which is a good leadership playbook, by the way, I've seen it, what page would you have to rip out and rewrite because of AI?
All of them, probably. So for context, as you know this, but probably I've shared this with you, Greg. So my whole book was born out of my own experience and 300 other leaders I interviewed and researched. And it was all about transitioning from hustle culture that used to really drive me when I was a partner in a professional services firm, running a $200 million business and managing 300 people. It was hustle all the time. And I believe in hustle, but I also believe it not being taking over everything and becoming your full culture, is really figuring out when to hustle, when to flow. And so I wrote this book from a sense of what I wished I had known then in terms of being able to set aside hustle culture and be able to stop being in the doing all the time and shift into some of that being where our innovation comes from. And so at the time, I think I felt really good about that work, but the whole point of it was to help an individual leader. And I think what AI has done has shown us all of this is going to just be on steroids and at scale. And we can fix one person's perspective of how they lead and lead from a place that's not fully a hustle culture. But what are we going to do when AI is just automating all of the things that we've already done? And so that's probably what I would have to say is AI has really challenged me to say, how do you actually do this at scale? What's going to change about the way that we work? And that's going to be so different anyway. Anything that worked for 5 years ago has to be set aside because all of the things that we were hustling to do were all of the doing, right? All of the automation and all the things that are going to be automated. So really it's now more about how do you actually help somebody tap into the most human elements of their leadership and let the robots do the rest.
Ooh, is that how your whole style is kind of shifting, is really going in on like that human connection, the empathy, the soft skills?
Yes, exactly. So the understanding hustle culture and understanding how it holds us back from our potential and how it teases us into burnout and beckons us to do more and more is really kind of the first part of the story, because if we can understand how that's actually holding us back from being who we're meant to be and being the leaders that we're meant to be, then a lot of times people have to start there and just say, well, wait a minute, I thought hustle was good, or always be closing, right? So it's starting to help them educate that piece. But once you understand that everything we're doing today, about 95% of that is going to be automated, you can't outwork these robots and these intelligent machines. So how can you actually start to shift into the connection, the empathy, the resilience, the stress understanding that you'll need as a leader so that you can actually set that vision from the top with your teams and lead your teams through ridiculous adaptability that we're all going to need.
I love that you called it stress, what?
It's stress, resilience, mindset, habits, connection or empathy, and then expansion is the last part of the framework, because so much of what we're doing right now, my hope really for humans, but humans certainly in corporate America and private equity firms that I work with, is so much of what we do today won't be what we do tomorrow. And so that expansion kind of is a nod to the fact that we should be able to tap into more aspects of our leadership, more aspects of our humanity, and bring that into work. And maybe that means we're going to be inventing things that never existed, or we're going to be relying on intuition, right alongside data to be making some of those decisions. So that's the expansion part of the framework.
So when you talk about, sorry,
No, you
I'm gonna
go.
cut you off. I think, yeah, I've been PE backed a couple of times. I know, we literally have a sign in one of our offices that says hustle on it,
Yep.
right? But I have to rethink what that sign means. There's other things that go with that, right? But, you know, you talk about speed to scale. One of the things that we say a lot of times is let the machines handle the routine or let the humans handle the remarkable, right? And this
I like that.
idea, the idea being, like, as you described, right? You're not going to be able to outpace the machine, nor probably should you, right? We talk a lot about, like, when we're presenting and training folks, over 50% of the work week is comprised of searching for things to do your job, copying and pasting, or reformatting data.
Yep.
I didn't sign up for that. I certainly didn't hire anyone to spend 50% of their time doing that. And so now being able to have this and then lift people up to be more strategic, to use those things you talked about. We don't say, I don't call them, what do you call them? Your skills, what were the skills?
Soft skills?
Yeah, I don't say that word anymore.
Yeah.
Soft skills, we call them survival
Oh,
skills.
survival skills.
Right, either survival or durable skills, as a friend of mine said more recently. Right. And so, because I think that people have weaponized the whole soft skills terminology and like, no, you need this. This matters more than it ever mattered.
Yep.
Right. And so I just wanted to call that out, but I love that framework.
Yeah. Actually, a funny thing about that, Greg, I actually had to tell somebody too, is the whole label of soft skills is a misnomer because it came up in psychological testing of soldiers back in the 50s, where they, on a battlefield, they had to split people into 2 different types of skills. And so they just picked soft skills because it was in relation to firing machine guns.
He can't shoot.
Right, exactly.
So-
and the name stuck. And the psychologist said, no, that's not what we meant. You need these 2, but it was too late. The brand damage was already done. So I am
That
absolutely
poor
in your boat.
psychologist
I know,
is like,
right?
well, there we go. I'm just
You
gonna have to,
weaponize this literally.
Yeah,
I'm
literally.
just gonna have to let this one die.
Right, exactly.
Oh
So,
my gosh. So
anyway.
when you're thinking about how efficient AI is, and then you think about how emotional people
Yeah,
are,
right.
how do we keep empathy at the core of the style when those algorithms are just everywhere we look?
Yeah. I like to actually lean into connection when I talk about empathy, because sometimes the folks I'm speaking to, we have to meet people where they are. If you look at Brene Brown's work, for example, she did a study that led to one of her most recent books, that most adults, it was like 75% of adults, could only name 3 types of emotions that they could feel. It was anger, sadness, and happiness. They couldn't tell you what it felt like to be frustrated in your own body and know where that was, or they couldn't tell you what the difference between envy and jealousy was, for example. And so she set about really explaining all of these. And if you think about that, that doesn't change when you badge into an office, right? So we're working with people all the time that don't necessarily know why they're triggered by a boss. So they don't really know at that moment that they're acting from a place of reactivity instead of choosing how they respond. So I like to try to say, like, empathy is the skill, but the way it shows up is actually connection. Because often people take that same misnomer of soft skills and say, I'll be empathetic and just, say hello to the person coming in. That's not really what it means. It's really about how can you use empathy as that doorway to connection with your team and build that connectivity. And so that's really where I like to anchor it, is actually helping them figure out, are you leading with control or are you leading with connection in the way that you set your teams up?
So you're saying all of us need to watch the movie Inside Out?
Yes. And
Yes.
Inside Out too. Absolutely.
And Inside Out too?
I prescribe that to my parents, if you can believe it, because boomers need it too.
I 100% going to tell my dad, like, you're going to sit down. We're going to watch this for the 100th time.
Yep, that's
Because I
right.
also like it.
Yes, agreed.
Erica, have you never seen the movie?
I haven't seen the movie.
You have to go fix that. So they personify all these emotions.
I've heard about what it
into
is,
like
but
little
I'm just-
people in their heads. And so you kind of like see a window into your head and you see like fear and disgust and
All the icky emotions that anybody wants to feel.
then you can kind of see how they
And the imagination and
Yeah.
all of these
it's
other
so
things
good.
is such a relevant. When you were saying it, I was literally like, oh, this is like Inside Out.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have 3 young kids.
I've got 2, so
Okay.
and
So-
teenagers who need to have emotional regulation. So
Oh
I'm
God,
with you.
bless America. That's a parenting podcast for another day.
Yeah.
y'all.
I had a 3-nager like 3 times. So I haven't got to the teens yet. They're 4, 6, and 8.
Good luck.
But that movie is a staple.
Yeah,
both
exactly.
1 and 2.
Well, actually, let's talk about AI and leadership and these connection skills, because a lot of people do have this fear that it's going to replace us. It's going to remove all of those things that we've just talked about. But the way I view it is like, wow, this frees up my time for a heck of a lot more that I can actually spend with the people I love and the things I want to do and
Right.
growing my team. So in your work and kind of redefining leadership, how are you working with leaders to kind of pull them out of the doing?
Yeah.
You know, because that's hard to let go of.
Yeah, it is. And we all need it, right? I mean, you can't just be being at work all the time and hit these huge growth goals that everyone has. So a lot of it comes down to the strategy about it and then the tactics. So the strategy really is helping them look and say, what do you actually want to commit to or reimagine that work might be? Meaning, do you want to free up more time to build relationships with salespeople? Are you a people leader and you want to free up more time to just have open door policies for people to walk in and be able to, share whatever's on their mind? Do you want to be a thought leader? And so you've got to spend some time having strategy time on your calendar or innovation research and make sure that's built in. And we start there because most of the executives I work with say, I'm doing everything I should be doing. I just want to hit more revenue, or I want my team to hit more revenue. And the first thing we do in tactics is do a calendar audit and look for how they're spending their time versus how they say they're spending their time. And inevitably, I can always pull at least 5 hours a week and say, I can get you 5 more hours. How do you want to spend that? Is it the copy and paste in PowerPoint? Do you want to spend it, coaching salespeople? Do you want to build better relationships with your customers? And so we start there so that people can understand how they're going to repurpose that time. And then once you've done that, that's the magic of AI, where you can say, how am I actually going to add the tools to make sure that those hours get protected? And maybe it's a block on your calendar. I had one executive I worked with who's going from a CMO to a CEO of a major company. And she's like, I'm just going to spend all weekend, reviewing these board reports so I can speak from this executive level. I was like, yeah, you could do that. Or you can just drop the board report into ChatGPT and have it give you a summary on your morning walk. And she was mind blown. So I think there's a lot of ways we can do that, where we can leverage the power of these tools to just help us lean into our human gifts, our human skills that are just going to make us better leaders, but we have to do it intentionally.
Yes. And what I love about that too is people think it's making us dumber because we're not spending the time. But it's like, no, actually, I'm able to absorb and understand that information faster. I could still go read a textbook.
1,000%.
But that's going to bore me to death. I'm going to have to restart the page because my brain's going to be ping-ponging.
Right.
Versus if I go to any AI tool and I say, great, take all this, distill it down to me like I'm 5, and you give me the top main takeaways. It's not making me dumber. It's talking to me in a way that I can understand and learn better.
That's right. And whether that means that you're doing it while you're moving or you're doing it while you're driving, and you're just getting some of that time back. I think the one caveat to that is really interesting when we look at the research in neuroscience over the last couple of years. Yes, brain rot is the easy way to say it. But neuroplasticity refers to this concept that's relatively new, only in the last 10 years, that we are not hard fixed in our personalities. We can rewire. And so the one challenge is, are we pruning our neural networks away from the critical thinking? Luckily, all of us are not teenagers. We're over 25. So as long as you're over 25, you're not really risking long-term pruning. That is one thing I'm talking about a lot with my teenagers is I want you to be able to know how to do AI for the future so you can get a job and be up to speed. But right now, you need to make sure you're building those critical thinking skills to kind of balance both of it. So I think it comes back to your question exactly into what are you using it for? And that intentionality around, are you trying to free up hours? Are you trying to have it be a thought partner? I use it a lot with, hey, be a thought partner. Here's what I'm thinking about putting in front of a client. What am I missing? And it'll always find something that I haven't thought of. I work with a lot of startups that are saying, instead of hiring 20 people, I'm hiring the right 5 that I can afford and who really are
super
committed.
Individual contributors.
Exactly. Right. So I think it'll change how we put teams together as well.
One thing on that whole, because Erica and I, we get in front of people and they ask that same question about the brain rot or how.
Yeah.
I like the way that you described it.
Thank you.
What was it? The
The neuroplasticity.
Plasticity, right. And the thing that I always come back to, I say, look, I took a lot of AP classes in high school, a lot of advanced classes. I took calculus and physics and all these others, and U.S. history and others. I said, but I also couldn't afford a TI-82 graphing calculator. I said, that did not make me smarter. What it made me do was choose. So I had to choose what I was going to double down in while I watched a bunch of other people that had effectively at that time democratized intelligence in their pocket.
Right.
That we now have. I said, so the idea, I get it. I said, but at every advancement in technology, there's been some group like us that has sat down and had this, well, is the calculator going to make us dumber? Is the typewriter going to make us not know how to write? I'm like, you're going to have to stop it at some point. So what I tell people, and educators in particular, I was on a panel a few weeks ago with Wake Tech down in North Carolina. It's like, stop saying, are they cheating, and start focusing on changing the tests. Meet them where they need to. And to your point, I can learn so much more in different mediums. I said, I've learned more in the last 6 months than I've learned in the last 5 years combined.
That's right. That's right.
And I said, because I don't AI search, I AI research. I'm learning about things so that I can talk about them more, so that I can do them. And it's only cheating if you can't actually do the things.
That's right.
That you said that you can do.
That's exactly right.
That's the cheating.
Yes.
And so.
But to your point, why would we then, if that tool is in our pocket, why wouldn't you use the graphing calculator equivalent now? And if you're just saying, I'll do it the hard way or the old way, then you're not actually advancing the skills that you're going to need to compete. So it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, like doing division isn't the thing.
Right,
Trying to figure out how do you apply that math to create something new, to solve the cure for cancer, these other things. Like, I just feel like people look at it the wrong way. And then, and even that whole research, the brain rot, it was like, duh, no shit. If you don't actually spend time even thinking about the thing, of course you didn't, remember it.
That's right. That's right.
So,
yeah, makes total
sense. You still
sense.
own it.
Yeah.
You still own the outcome.
That's right. That's right.
What is the one thing you think that leaders are just missing the mark on when it comes to bringing AI into their teams?
I think one thing is we've probably seen the MIT study. Here we are at MIT, about 85%.
95%.
Of AI, right, not showing the results. I think too often we look at it as a Band-Aid or the next new shiny toy, and let's all get on board. And if we implement it, the people that know AI will figure it out and we'll all get these great results. I think it comes back to what you said, Greg, of like understanding what the intention is, but also owning that outcome. And if the outcome is being really specific about if it's productivity, that you're returning hours, or it's innovation, that you're trying to get people to think about that differently, the way you set up the structures around using the AI, so the people, the operating systems, the guidelines, is really what is the piece that's going to make or break us. So it's not the actual tools themselves, because all of them are being overwritten and updated every few weeks. So you can't really be building something new at this point that isn't going to be obsolete relatively soon. So it's not about the tools and the technology. It's about how are you equipping your leaders to actually better leverage AI to be better for their teams.
I've got a thought. Because I know, really, everybody, take a minute. But I don't ever really consider myself an early adopter. I'm usually like, okay, we'll see how it all plans out and then I'll jump on it. And I think a lot of people think about AI and early adoption and they're like, I'm going to wait until the dust settles, until it's a little bit more done. Now, my mindset has flipped on that. I'm like, no, you need to be, jumping in now and learning it while it's evolving. Right. But what are your thoughts on that with leaders today?
Absolutely. I am 100% in that boat. And again, if you don't get too caught up on what tool you're using and what the stack looks like, but more what are the concepts and how are you thinking about the business problem that you're solving with it, then you can try to surf as these next tools come about. I was just at a conference earlier this week and they were talking about how AI is just as big as the internet in terms of disruption. And the idea being that people thought, oh, the internet's a fad, I'll wait till it keeps going. And she gave the example of Blockbuster, of the Blockbuster CEO said, well, no one's going to want to replace.
Oh, we talk about this all the time.
Right, exactly. The Friday night movie selection, right? So it wasn't the tools and the technology. They knew what the technology was, but they failed to kind of see what the culture needed. They failed to see what their customers were asking for and kind of what the rest of the team.
In that exact example, right? One of the things that I use for my AI all the time is like, tell me what I'm not thinking about. Tell me what I'm not seeing. And if the Blockbuster CEO had said, hey, AI, tell me what I'm not thinking about, they said, hey, we're going to tell you in, I don't know, 2 years, 3 years, like, this is what it's going to be, they might have taken a different course of action.
That's right.
They had no capacity to see the future,
even imagine.
Right? So one of the podcasts that we produce is for Jess Ekstrom, and she's had Mark Randolph, one of the co-founders of Netflix, on there multiple times. So I always would follow him. And I always tell people, whether it's the changes that Google has made or some of these others, they had a Blockbuster meets Netflix moment, what I keep trying to explain to folks. And, one of the coolest things I think Netflix did early days, a lot of people don't remember this, but one of their first taglines was no more late fees.
Oh, that's
Which
funny.
was a direct affront to Blockbuster because they made so much money off of late fees,
Yes.
hoping you couldn't get back to the
Yes.
store.
Yes,
So they
yes.
had no appreciation. I remember sitting in an office at IBM where I started interning in 1998, and people were debating about Google and Yahoo and the internet and all these fake companies. And they're like, oh, there's no way this is ever going to work. And every time someone says, no way it's not going to work, it continues
Somebody
to work
buys
because
it
they have
back.
no imagination. And then going back to the MIT study, right, 95% of these AI failures or whatever. But if you read through there and start to pay attention, one of the big things is, you kind of hit on this, is a lot of times there's this build in-house or do it yourself. It's like, how are you going to build something that is literally changing every 2 to 3 months? Right? So that's thing one. The other part is the people adoption.
Yes.
We talk about this all the time.
Yep.
People, process, platforms, in that order always. And if you can't get people like invested in it, because we always say, the reason why they ask me is like, why are you partnering with an HR person? I said, well, she's the human, I'm the machine, right? And I said, but what I'm trying to get across is the first time in our generation, right, that it's more than just one person in IT that can be a potential saboteur.
That's right. Yeah.
This affects every human on the planet. And so now you're saying, you keep talking about your outcomes, but you haven't told the rest of the employees where they fit into the story arc. So now you have 90% of the org rowing against you. And you seem surprised. So when I
That's
looked
right.
at the MIT study, I was like, yeah, no shit.
Makes sense. It makes total sense.
Yeah.
And I think that the friend or foe piece of that too, when you think about, okay, is this going to leave me behind, or am I going to, have to catch up? Even if you look at some of the studies now, there's in the next 5 years that, 80 million jobs will be created and 71 are going to go away. It's still forecasting a 7% job net increase, which is something like 80 million jobs. The idea is like we are going to be freed up to tackle higher order things that we just can't fit into an 80-hour workday. So like to me, that's very hopeful and exciting to think about. If you're starting with the people first, to your point, which I agree with, think about the development needs that they're going to have met that they don't even know they have. The things you'll be able to create for them, or the things they'll be able to do in their job that isn't just, boy, I'm looking 15 years towards retirement and then pushing the same button. Like that to me is very exciting when we think about that aspect of it too.
I love it. It's such an opportunity for leaders, for companies, for individual contributors to just dive in and see what's possible because of where we are in this moment.
That's right.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Jennie, for being
Thanks
on
for
here.
having me.
Again, we are at the AI Powered Women Conference here at MIT. This is the AI Voice or Victim podcast. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for joining us on AI, Voice or Victim. If you want to stay competitive in the AI age, start now. Take one insight from today's episode and put it into practice in the next 24 hours. Make sure to follow us, share your thoughts, and subscribe for more actionable AI insights. See you next time.